Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 5, Episode 32. I'm your host, Alejandro. With me, my beloved Master of Hats.
How's it going?
How you doing, Rick?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah. Just coming back from the gym. We're doing a little bit of a later start than I wanted because I was stuck in traffic, but thank you for waiting for me there because today's going to be like a different kind of episode. We're going to make it slightly shorter because we're just going to laser focus it, but I'm glad that you're here. I feel like you're the right person to talk about this game based on whenever we have like games that we're simpatico in a way, that we're kind of like in the same wavelength. Maybe in slightly different, but kind of similar, kind of like what we did with The Last of Us. But I'm excited to talk about the game that we're going to be talking on top of another game that by just happenstance you're going to be able to talk about, not under embargo or anything, because
and whether it is or not,
yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, it is not, and that's the thing. You're not media. You have not signed anything. They shipped you that thing. You played it. They cannot blackball us.
Yep.
So excited! I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on that because I did play that demo. So, but you've been playing that game. But before we get into that, this is just a reminder that this is the X Bottom Podcast, Escapes Gaming Podcast that posts every Fridays from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links on your RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. It's just gonna be a what we've been playing episode this week. I don't think there was any newsworthy headline this week. I feel it's good to just
outside of, talking about the one game in particular, I can't think of too much to news wise.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I was like, this seems like the perfect one to just kind of talk about that game. But before we talk about that specific game, let's jump into the game that they shipped to you early. Hell is Us. So
yes, so we're recording this on Thursday the 28th. Hell is Us actually releases on, I believe it would be a Friday the 5th.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the 4th.
No, it's actually next Friday. However, my copy came, was it Tuesday, I think?
Show us the physical copy so that they know, so people know. So
yeah, I ordered the deluxe edition. I ordered it directly from Nacon, which at first, so I ordered it that way, thinking that it was a Nacon store exclusive. For those who don't know, Nacon is a French publisher, and 2 days after I ordered it, it went up on like Amazon. I was like, oh, there actually is an ESRB version. No, but I could not even see a way to cancel it. So I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go with it. And as it turned out, I was like, all right, it's coming out around the point when everything else is, so I don't care if it comes a couple of days late. And then I saw that it was supposed to ship last week. So I late last week it was shipping. So I texted Clint and I said, hey, actually, there's a possibility this might not come very late for me, because understand it's also coming from France. It's not coming from the States.
And you're used to getting, because you like getting your special editions, you can kind of see, if you're on video, everything behind him. Like, you always order them from outside too. So
yeah, but I mean specifically, something coming from Europe is obviously going to take quite a bit longer to get here. Typically. Yep. This one somehow it came in like 3 days. Because like I said, I think it came Tuesday. It's either Monday or Tuesday. I want to say it was Tuesday. And now I'm not the only one. I actually happened to check the Reddit, and I did see some people said like, "Wow, I actually got this already." And since it's a physical copy, physical forever, there was nothing to prevent playing it. And fortunately, the one hesitance I was gonna wonder was like, man, is this gonna be like run like dog shit because it needs like a day one patch? But it doesn't. So I'm like, all right, this is perfectly playable.
Yeah, the demo was like super smooth. So
yeah, well, right. But I didn't know if the final game would be like that. But it is. It runs every bit as well, at least that I've noticed it. I've noticed occasional slowdown, but nothing to really bother the experience. So, but yeah. So for those who don't know, I actually learned a little bit more about this game since I got my copy. This game is by, I forget his name, Jonathan something, who actually, I did not know this, is the creative director from Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. And I do not know his name, but Alexis Torfey or whatever his name is, the voice actor for what the hell's his name from Deus Ex. He is the main character, voice actor of the main character in Hell Is Us. So I was like, oh, that's an interesting connection. It is a I guess you would just categorize it as a third person action adventure. Uh, but what's kind of unique about it is, and they've marketed this pretty heavily, that it does not hold your hand to walk you through things. It's got a lot of like investigative elements to it, so it's also like mini detective game at that. Um, and pretty much like the very beginning, for example, if you played the demo, you would have seen this.
Mhm.
A good example of this is the first guy you meet. He tells you to make your way through the forest or whatever, right? And instead of
East.
giving
It specifically tells you to go east.
correct, it gives you direction, but more than that, and the point I was going to specifically say, he says because his kids, blah 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 blah, they hung these wind chimes in the trees so he could use or so the children could use those to find their way in and out. So that's an example of where it'll be like, hey, head east, like you said, follow the wind chimes, and you'll find what you're going for. It does that as opposed to there's not a single map marker. I don't. There's actually not really a map in the game. Um, not a physical map. I mean.
Mhm.
But it does not give you checkpoints, waypoints, anything like that. It's all about talking to people, getting information, which then you do get this little like
Log.
data
Mhm.
data pad thing, and it does so if you forget what you learned, it does do a good job of keeping notes for you, but nevertheless you do have to figure it out yourself. And now, a couple years ago, when a certain game came out, for some reason everybody thought that that's the way every game should be, which I don't agree. But it is nice to have this in a one-off situation, and particularly a game built around this idea, right? And
Mhm.
it's pretty cool. Like it kind of, makes you exercise the old bean a little bit, and I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
And even then, I would say that even though the game doesn't handhold you, I would say that it still signposts you well enough with what you need to
oh,
find in the
sure.
environment
And
that.
that's why it matters that it was a game made specifically with this intention in mind.
Mhm.
And even the puzzles, like the earliest puzzle you get to is that first thing you go into or whatever. Um, you have to rotate those. I don't know how much of the demo you played, but you have to rotate
I
those
finished it.
dials.
Yeah, I
Okay.
finished it. Mhm.
Oh, actually, I'll have a question for you then in a minute, but just bear with me. Um, you have like to rotate $3, whatever, and you find out what you do by, or excuse me, how it's supposed to set by going through other rooms and finding like markers on the wall or whatever,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and one
And
of them was like in the other side of a wall because it fell. So.
that's not what I was talking about, but yes, that is correct.
Mhm.
I was talking about when you're inside there and you have to turn those three dials
Mhm.
for the religious text or whatever it was, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I had to guess it based on the three texts that I read. So be like, okay, they mentioned this, they
right,
mentioned this, so
right,
I assume is this, and I started
right.
moving, and then that's open. I was like, I guess I figure it out.
Yeah.
You can watch my playthrough over at twitch.tv/the Slayer Giant. I actually highlighted my entire demo playthrough. So, and
So,
it's there.
what I was going to ask you is if you said you finished the demo, when does the demo end? Does it end when you first get in the APC, or does it go to the next map as well?
So you get into the APC,
Hmm.
you get out of the APC, you walk a little bit, you find kind of like a dad and a daughter. I don't remember.
A guy holding his dead family, yes.
Yes. And then once you kind of see like the big skybox, like when you walk that it looks like a battlefield, that's when it cuts.
Okay, all right. So I am a little bit past the demo then. That's what I was getting at. I wasn't sure exactly when the demo ended. Um, Actually, what's interesting is, but I guess I see why. Where the demo ends is really where the whole like we don't hold your hand part really starts.
Huh, okay.
Because when you walk up there, you get to the I don't know if it's the first, I don't know if it's the only, I'm not sure, but major city. Uh, I mean, I say major, but you know what I'm saying. And that's where you start walking around talking to people and collecting information and investigations and all that kind of stuff. Um, and that's where they'll like for example, there's a girl you meet there that you're trying to track down this other APC or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this other girl is the one that really saw them, and she's describing to you where they went, but since she's a young girl, she's not like, oh, follow Route 23 around this way, right? She's like from where we are, you can see the monuments, whatever they're called, and go around behind that hill, and that kind of thing, right? That's kind of how it guides you to things. Um, but in addition, when you're walking around this little city called Jova, you start to pick up information as to kind of what's going on. And I mean, I can't really give spoilers because I'm not very far into it, but the general gist here, and this is kind of interesting. I kind of like what they've done here. This is set in a world where I don't know how long ago, but a pretty brutal civil war took place
Mm-hmm.
between a religious faction called the Palamists and a you would have seen these when you talked to that guy in the first one,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what the other faction is, but they're called Sabinians, I think, something like that.
Mhm.
And the Sabinian, but when you get to the city, which unfortunately from where you ended, you would not be able to see it. You can see the. This is actually, it's pretty well done how it looks like almost a guerrilla civil war happened, right? Like you'll see trucks that have like howitzers mounted in the back of them, and when you go to a different area, you'll see tanks, you'll see
Mhm.
overturned vehicles, all that kind of stuff, and it's actually pretty neat. But it does seem like, now I don't know how far it goes into this for the main story, of course, because I'm just not very far into it, but it does definitely seem like it touches somewhat on some rather mature subject material. Like they mentioned, I mean, there's a point where you see some guards standing there where they executed people up against a wall.
Yeah,
Um,
it is so visually evocative. I remember
yes.
as like just
Mhm.
from in its fidelity and its war torn, that kind of like Eastern European war torn that we were in our group chat kind of talking about, kind of like all of these Eastern European games that seem that they're connected to Russia, kind of all look the same, like
Mhm.
either post-apocalyptic or just kind of like the remnants of war torn
Mhm.
era thing. Is like this game
Mhm.
is literally all about that.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, and now I mean it's actually about something else, but I
Mhm.
couldn't even really tell you yet what that something else is because it's obviously shrouded in total mystery. But yeah, it
Some
is it
demons slash interdimensional beings that are like white that get
kind of,
kind
but
of but not,
yeah, and like now where I ended up stopping playing yesterday, I finally unlocked in that second map the blacksmith, and it's this game also does use a fairly interesting like weapon upgrade system. Like when you first get a
Mhm.
weapon, like you have the sword, you have the double axes to
It
begin with.
levels up as the more you
Right.
kill people.
However, they only level up to a certain point. I think it's level 4 for basically every base level weapon.
Mhm.
When you get to the blacksmith, though, now you choose. This was really interesting about it. You choose one of four. What's it called? Them like glyph spheres or something like that, right?
Mhm.
You have rage, ecstasy, grief, and terror.
Mhm.
Now, and then there's actually a fifth one which is neutral, but you can't level a weapon past that point. I don't think. I could be wrong on that, but when you put it one of those four, though, you actually lock that weapon to those four types, and then you get glyphs. You probably noticed there's three glyph spots to equip to the weapon, but you couldn't equip anything to it where you were.
Mhm.
Um, those glyphs are basically like, think of them as like augmentations that you attach to the weapon, right? However, whatever sphere or whatever the term is that you choose is what you are locked to using that weapon type, and the different like emotions or whatever do affect what they do. So and actually what's also interesting too is when you set it, it totally changes how the weapon looks. So that starting like one-handed sword, I picked rage for that just because it was the first one and I hadn't looked too deeply into it. And all
Mhm.
of a sudden, instead of looking like a standard like saber almost, now it almost looks like a weapon out of Bloodborne now. Like it almost looks like this big cleaver looking thing. That doesn't change how it functions.
I'm glad that you mentioned Bloodborne because this is something that I kind of figured out while I was playing the demo. It's very easy to kind of see the camera, the stamina, the flow of combat, and
That said,
think it's a
before anybody gets there, this is not a Souls like. The,
exactly.
the the Souls similarities end with what you just said.
Exactly. So it's like that, and that was kind of my thing because I was like, okay, there's the dodge, there's a parry, but it feels more like an action game in this
It's an
perspective
action game. Yeah, it's just a straight up
than a
action game.
Souls
Well,
like.
yeah.
And
Uh,
and I would say the combat was easy in spots, but then as soon as you got like three or more enemies, it started to get a little
when you start to
slightly
deal with
unwieldy.
when you start to deal with the enemies that have those things in them, it gets a good bit
The
harder.
umbilical
Uh,
course, that I called it.
yeah, yeah. Um, and then now I don't remember if you just seen them in the demo, but there are multiple different kinds of those. You can tell what the enemy has in them based on the color of their
Mhm.
thing,
Yeah.
but like that first one that you see where it's like a red ball or whatever,
Mhm.
like that's one type. Then you'll get one that looks like a running guy. You'll get one that so there are different types of those. I mean, I've not seen a ton of them yet. Again, I am still pretty early, but um, it definitely is pretty interesting. I'm pretty fascinated, and again, finding out that this Jonathan guy was the creative director has me even more interested because while he did not create Deus Ex, that was Warren
Mhm.
Spencer, I think was his
Warren Spector.
Spectre. Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Um, he did do a lot of different things with it than what Warren had initially done. And I really liked Human Revolution. I was a little less positive on Mankind Divided, but Human
Yeah.
Revolution was amazing.
Yeah, Mankind
Um,
Divider was like such a bummer because there was something special there, and it's clear that they pieced it out together because they wanted to do like an
Yeah,
episodic thing, and it
yeah.
didn't work, and Square just kind of dropped it. So
And it never got proper like it got the DLC that added some resolution, but the story still has not been resolved.
and it sucks.
Um,
And they were gonna
yeah,
resolve it when they were gonna work on that new Deus Ex that got canceled.
yeah.
So
Uh,
sucks.
but yeah, so unfortunately, even though I wanted to push through to good bits and I had a lot to say, by nature of how the game works, it's not an easy thing to push through quickly because you do have to kind of figure things out as you were going. Um, but so far, I'm like, this is pretty cool. And when I look around, when I see preview events, obviously, I don't even know if outlets have a review copy or not yet. So
Yeah,
I mean, clearly it is gold
I
and
can
completed, or else I wouldn't have it. But
I can tell we don't. So it's so funny that you do.
right.
That is so funny that you actually you got super lucky here by how they shipped it.
Also, something interesting, and I think this was a mistake, and I think it's the reason why those of us got it early, because I saw the other people said the same thing. You notice I don't know how well it shows up here.
It's oh yeah, you didn't get the right.
It's the European version. It's not the what is that PAL version? It's not the NSTC
NTSC and
NTSC, yeah.
And the rating is different because it has the number and it's not M for mature or T for teen and all of that. That's how you know which one's American and which one's the other one.
And somebody at Nacon I think knows it's screwed up because it actually only has one code. What's very interesting is all this like pre-order DLC. It's on the disc, and that includes what I assume was supposed to be DLC for the deluxe edition. There was one code that was for the art book and all kind of stuff, and that didn't work. But I didn't put much stock in that because I was like, well, the game doesn't come out for another week and a half, so maybe the code's not relevant yet. Yesterday, I actually got emailed a code from Nacon for that, so they know they screwed up by sending the wrong versions and sending them too early. However, the beneficiary of it. Again, I can't speak much, but do you have any questions for it as of this point that I can try to answer?
Do you think you're gonna finish it?
I mean, I'm going to try. It depends how long it is. If it's a 150-hour game, I don't know. but I mean, I plan on pushing through it. I mean, as you know, and I mean, I didn't say it here, but I have decided that I'm going to stop the 500 in progress games at a time because it is starting to become obnoxious.
It's so funny because in our group of four, like we have in one spectrum we have Joe that is the one game at a time,
which is insane. I think that's just insane. But
yes, because then it's like a one game that he talks for like multiple episodes.
Right.
And then there's you that you play so many but you never kind of get through them because you're kind of like always pacing. Right. So it's kind of hard to know, like, are we able to talk now? Because I don't know if you got into this part. Kind of like what happened with E33 and when the discourse of that game kind of started getting out of control. And then there's me and Paul that we usually tend to go through 2 or 3 at a time. So it's funny seeing like where that spectrum kind of lands, and I'm glad that you're trying to reel yourself more towards me and Paul's spectrum of trying to at least get 2 or 3 going, plus 2 more if you need kind of like a palate cleanser because still have many games.
It's also partly due to the fact that as of this week, it is just an avalanche of stuff anymore. So yeah. If I kept playing everything, it is to the point I would never finish anything now. So basically, I like as of now, I'm gonna keep pounding through Metal Gear, our next game. I'll play Hell Is Us. That actually was gonna be on the back burner, but the fact that it came early, I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll play it now.
Yeah. And the demo, I think, well, they have said that it was limited, but I don't know if you downloaded it at the point that it was available. You can still download and play it because it didn't really. Yeah, I don't know why they said that it was limited because it didn't really have any like online component to it. So that was like, why is it limited?
They did the same thing with Neo 3's demo, and technically, I mean, there was minor online component, I guess, but yeah. Then I'll play Silk Song and like I said Mafia, but I actually finished Mafia, so that's Mafia 2. Actually, I have a playthrough going on that, but that's
and you finished the Old Country too, right?
I finished Old Country and I finished as soon as I finished it. No, I finished Definitive Edition.
Oh, okay.
I finished 2 in the past. I just don't remember much about it. So 2 is what I'm currently playing. Yeah. So I don't think I said it on here. I think it was just in the Discord. I actually agree with Joe's review score on that it was an 8. I think that's which I think you said you agreed as well. Yeah. I think that's actually spot on.
Yeah, it's an 8 that I like it. Like it's an 8 in premise to me, even though the game has not stuck with me afterwards. But it's more like I respect it for having done what it did. I respect
And,
that they committed to like the vision.
and I will say, so full disclosure, there's 4 Mafia games. I have finished 3 of them. The only one I didn't finish was 3, which I will eventually.
Yeah.
I think it's easily the most forgettable of the 4, actually. And were it not for the, I do like it. I want to be clear with that. I do like the game. Were it not for the fact that 3's
Open world
structure is so bad, I think Old Country would easily be the worst of them. Which being said, it's still good. And I do very, very, very much disagree with Joe. And like, I like Enzo. I think Enzo's easily the worst of the 4 protagonists. By a mile. I don't know why. Like, I think he's good. I think he's a good protagonist. But
he just feels very box standard.
He's like he's a little milquetoast in comparison to the other 3. Yes.
Yeah, and I feel kind of like where that game shines, it's in its presentation and like that, how they nailed the setting of like old school Sicily. Again, the focus of getting a game so laser focused on its vision in 2025. It's like I respect it even more in the era of the bloated game, and of them coming back from bloating a game like in Mafia 3. But
I think the biggest issue with it, though, is actually on that same idea. It's too short, and it's not too short in a man. I want more game. It's too short in a
too simple.
It rushes through the good stuff and drags out the boring stuff. Like the opening is much too long, and like the actual minor spoiler if you're completely stupid, but the actual like mob war is way too short.
Yeah,
it's like 2 chapters.
Yeah,
it's like that should have been half the game.
Yeah, and then when you got 3 chapters where you're like basically playing Slave Simulator, it's like
well, that's what I mean. The opening is much too long.
Yeah,
and so unfortunately that kind of hurts it. But
yeah, Definitive Edition is still my favorite. I feel that's still like the purest stuff.
Easily. I think Joe, to each his own, I think Joe is the only person I've ever heard likes the series that thinks Old Country is the best. Yeah. I think almost everybody universally agrees that the first one is still the best.
Oh yes, 100%. And and then obviously I know Mafia 2 gets like a bad rap, but the way he dislikes that game doesn't make sense to me. But I also haven't played it since 2010. So
well, I guess I can't say same because I am halfway through it, but I for those who don't know, it takes place in 2 decades. It starts in the 40s, then roughly halfway through, it switches to the 50s, which actually I liked. I thought that was actually a pretty cool thing, and to be honest with you, it's an impressive design to be able to do it that way because it's a pretty different game between the two decades. And I don't agree. Well, I can't say I don't agree with a lot of Joe's complaints about it. I just don't agree that they're exclusive to Definitive Edition. In fact, I mean 2. In fact, I would argue the complaints that he has are far more relevant to Old Country than they are to 2.
That's the irony.
Yeah, like one of his complaints is about the in-game economy. So the in-game economy in Old Country is almost pointless.
Oh yeah,
I don't know why they bothered with it. And I forget what else I was, so I can't really say that, but.
Him saying that it had the facade of the open world, and I'm like, I don't care. It's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
So but remember, he said that 3 is the best one, and I'm like, nope.
When he said 3, though, he did clarify and say he meant Old Country.
Yeah.
But
so, before Old Country, he said 3 was the best one for him, and that's why I was like, nope. And
I cannot sign off on that. That's for sure.
Yes, and I would say a version of 3 that had none of the open world thing, that was just that story. Maybe that version that doesn't exist
in an alternate universe where 3 was made the way it probably should have been. Yeah, I could see it being the best actually.
Yeah. And I think, and that's the problem that Joe has, is that he just laser focuses on the story, and then the rest of the game doesn't matter. And that's kind of like it's the same thing that happens with Hogue. So it's like for some reason it's like a story is like the most primordial thing when they talk about a game. I mean, to each their own. To me, a game is a game.
And to be fair, the story in the Mafia games is a pretty major part of it. So, so it's not like it's not like you shouldn't take that into account, because it is a major element of those games.
Yes, but also the game side of it is kind of like the thing that also kind of brings it down. I feel like when we talk about a game, it's you can either be selective, or you can kind of talk about the things that make the game or they don't. So, and they tend, like, knowing both of them, they just kind of laser focus on that kind of one thing. Let's not forget that long diatribe when we had that conversation about the whole reimagining and remake thing.
Yeah.
Let's not, like, you can go back to listen to that episode from a few months back. But
yeah, if you want to off yourself, yes,
you want to unalive yourself. But but speaking of unaliving yourself and then taking a fake pill to revive yourself. Metal
That
Gear.
was an interesting segue.
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, the official like full-blown remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater that came out all the way back in 2004 and has been re-released, no kidding, 5 times in the Subsistence Edition. Well, it was the PS2 original, Subsistence Edition, the 3DS port, the HD
Yeah.
collection, and the Master Collection. So this is basically the 6th re-release of Metal Gear Solid 3. So why I'm glad that you're here, Rick, is that Metal Gear Solid 3 isn't my top 10 favorite games of all time, but it's at the bottom of my list. For you,
For
is
me.
the second, just behind Final Fantasy 7.
I'll say
So,
I'm actually eating pretty good because my two favorite games have actually both gotten
I got
remakes.
great remakes, yeah. And one got
well, one of them has mostly. It's not quite finished yet, but it will
yes,
be.
and one is an ambitious reimagining, and the other is a very faithful love letter to the original.
It kind of takes what each one of the versions does best and kind of compiles them together and then puts a new shiny coat of paint on it.
Because when I was looking back at the because it's very interesting, like what was in each piece of Metal Gear like 3, like whenever they re-released, obviously the core version of the game was the PS2 original, then Subsistence added the 3D camera finally, but still controlled like the old way. First person holding R1, shooting with square, and added Metal Gear Online, which was like huge because then that got fleshed out with 4 in the long gone mode.
The only downside of Subsistence is I believe it did take out the Snake versus Monkey mode.
Yes, no, that one had it.
It did have it? Okay, yeah. I thought it took it out.
They took it out, I think, in the HD collection. The HD
okay,
collection
maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yeah, because it's Snake versus Monkey. I played it. I remember for the first time when I got it. This I never owned the Snake Eater original. A friend had it, and I borrowed it and played it back then. And then when Subsistence came out, and it was very cheap, I was like, I want to own Metal Gear Solid 3. I'm gonna get this version. So that's the one that I had with the.
Fun little fact: I actually have a very, very rare version of that game. I have I don't know, I think it's just called the Collector's Edition version of Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence.
Did it have like a red cover or something like that?
It did. So. But basically, when it was coming out, basically the difference to it is it has that slip cover, which is what you're thinking of. It has a second disc, like dual DVD case with it. That basically makes Metal Gear Solid 3 into one giant movie, and it uses like they filmed little gameplay sequences to piece it together. Yeah. But that actually was when the day it came out. Remember, this is PS2. I want to say they charged like $60. It was only $10 more, right? The day it came out, it was going on eBay for like $120.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
because basically they couldn't even meet the number of pre-orders for it. The EB the Electronic Boutique at the time that I went to, I think they said they had 10 pre-orders. They got 2 copies. I was like, well, I'm getting one of them. And they said, yeah, we'll hold it for you. But there was times where it was advantageous to be friends with them.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it is a very, very rare collector's edition.
Yeah, but it's like it's such an interesting game to see how it's so funny. Like of this entire series, this is the game that they keep going back to, the one that has been like re-released so many times, and for a good reason. I feel everyone makes an argument of what is their favorite Metal Gear, and I feel everyone can always make a good case for all of them, but I do feel that 3 is the one that's more unanimous considered the best.
It's probably for series fans, it is probably the most universally liked one. That's why.
Because 2 was reviled, because I feel 2 has it's like in the typical Kojima fashion that time has been kind to it, like the swing of the character switch and all that on 2 was like something that
it was more that than anything else. So it's more people accepting over time that's what it was. But
yeah, and the themes of that game becoming more and more resonant the further we've gotten into the digital era, the social media era, and all that. And that was just something that people saw. I vividly remember it was like, oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2 story just goes bonkers, hilariously off the rails. It's nonsense, all this like gibberish that the AIs are telling you about, and then you realize that's we're literally living that world, and that was like so biting how he nailed the prediction.
It's also another example of, when you hear people say like, oh, nobody understands the Metal Gear story, and it's like, no, anybody that pays attention understands it, because while it is complicated, all of it does make sense. You just have to really be paying attention to even little details. Yeah.
And you even see it with Death Stranding. Like, it may seem like nonsensical, and then by the time you finish that first game, like, it all makes sense. It's like, I feel Kojima, as wordy as he can be, as vivacious with his, like, cutscenes and its storytelling and all that, he really makes sure that the point is driven across so that things make sense. And I know the people that prefer something briefer or not being stuck in cutscenes and all that, they take issue with that, but you cannot fault that man that because he goes so big into storytelling, he just makes sure that he tries to close the loop and things, which was unfortunate that he wasn't able to do that with Metal Gear Solid 5 because of everything that happened behind the scenes with the ousting and all of that.
I will say some of that was his own fault, so it's not all on Konami. I mean, they were basically getting tired of him not finishing the game. So,
he got too ambitious. He got too ambitious, and it's like I do feel Metal Gear Solid 5 was him proving definitively that he's such a great game designer, because obviously the gameplay of that game is the best thing about it. It sucks that it also took away a thing that it's also really good at, which is stories. And we see kind of like cutscenes, and it's kind of like we were talking in our chat today that you were listening to some of the cassettes, and
I was specifically listening to the revelation tapes that are all not unlocked till the very end of the game.
Yeah, there's great story in that game. It's just that it's buried, and you have to be
all
intentional.
in the cassette tapes.
Yes.
The actual good story is barely told in the game, or in the proper game, like most of the games are. It is almost all told through the cassettes, and there's a lot of story in the cassettes that is mind-numbingly boring.
Yes.
If I listen to Code Talker talk again, I might kill myself.
Yes,
because that was abysmal.
Yes.
But the whole story about what is actually going on behind the scenes, I guess primarily before the events of the game, is actually very, very interesting. And I mean, I did know it. It's not I didn't know it before. I just kind of forgot some of the details.
And I'm glad that at least in that game, in those cassettes, when the ones that are highlighted gold are the important ones, because there's so many that are not highlighted that are so boring, but are there if you just kind of want to listen to it.
Right.
But I like that at least in modern times, Kojima realized that was a mistake. And I mean, in Death Stranding 2, we get an example of Metal Gear Solid 5 style gameplay, maybe not fully, because there's still a few mechanics that didn't make it through, but at least the sandbox nature of MGS5 is still in that game, and and it works so well, and it has a story, legit. It has legit storytelling. So I'm glad he eventually found the perfect medium to realizing he's a great game designer, but he's also a great storyteller, and no one does cutscenes as good as him. As we're reminded that Metal Gear Solid 3 was so ahead of its time in its cinematography. I want to start with the positives with this thing, that I respect that Konami didn't fully fuck this up. It feels like that was always kind of when I knew that they were remaking the thing. It was a bittersweet feeling, because it's finally Metal Gear is gonna come back in modern times. It's just that idea of finally one of gaming's greatest games, because that's how I feel Metal Gear Solid 3 is gonna have kind of a new entry point. Then obviously there's the conversations people have why are they starting with 3 instead of MGS1, and then MGS1 it's one way older game that I think will require even extra bigger work.
I was going to say it's because 3 is much easier to remake, because one, you would have to genuinely redesign the game, whereas here you do not actually have to do that.
And we know what happened when they try to overimpose mechanics from a later game back into one, with Twin Snakes. That it was
I'm a Twin Snakes defender, to be clear, but
it's good. I enjoy it, but it's I still prefer the original in PS1, and it's just very clear that you cannot just overimpose new mechanics into the exact same old design of an older game, because then it's it just breaks it. The Ocelot fight is straight.
It specifically ruined the Ocelot fight, and it kind of ruined the
ninja fight.
The ninja fight, yes. Other than that, really though, it did not negatively affect any element of the game. Just those. Well, I guess some people didn't like the change in cutscenes where some of them got a little anime.
Yes.
But other than that, it really didn't affect the game.
And the soundtrack changes, because it was the soundtrack in Shadow Moses was very solemn, and it got a little bit more rock and rolly, and but on top of the extra animated cutscenes that they added, of Snake going all Matrix and all that.
Yeah, so him jumping over the rocket was the one that always I remember.
It's straight out of something out of DMC, which the original game wasn't like that, but that was kind of the example. And I feel that parts of Delta got a little bit Twin Snakesy in that, this has made it very easy in different spots, but I don't feel it's as bad as it was in Twin Snakes. I feel like the game got into a groove where the improvements mechanically didn't completely fully trivialize the thing. And I'm noticing it even now that I'm playing on a harder difficulty. I'm okay, there I'm seeing it there. This is not a game to play normal.
Obviously you have played more of the game than I have. So to be clear, right before we started here, I just got to the pain fight. Okay. So I'm not saying I fully disagree. And to be clear, this is not making excuses for anybody, right? There are a couple things that I think maybe people don't think to turn off, which is what kind of does that. First of all, if you're a Metal Gear fan, I cannot stress this enough. Turn off I forget what it's called, but like the enemy alert indicator, which is like where it puts. Remember, you didn't have that before, so that alone already makes it a lot easier because now instead of having to simply watch an enemy's reaction, you can see if they're starting to notice you. As number two, you kind of mentioned there, if you're familiar with it, like everybody does kind of forget. I'm not saying you necessarily, but a lot of people do forget. Metal Gear Solid 3 in general actually was pretty easy. If you put it on hard, it does get actually a good bit. It's a pretty good jump in difficulty between normal and hard. Not in terms of dying, but in terms of remaining in stealth.
I would say that original version of MGS3, like the Snake Eater one with the fixed camera, was actually a little hard because it was like, and there's my dog. There was the 1 and 2 gave you the radar. It had the cone, the division cone, and it was like playing Pac-Man. Like it's kind of like, because of that perspective, it's like that made it cool. And having that same style of camera in a older setting without a radar and all that, it required you to constantly be like going into first person. The level of detail back in PS2, it was like a obviously blurrier game. It was still a pretty game, but it was kind of like the coloring made everything kind of like blend together, so it was hard sometimes to catch enemies. By the time we got to Subsistence with the full 3D camera, the game started becoming much easier because finally like you had that camera to kind of see all of that, even though you still had the friction of, okay, it now plays like a third person, seems like it plays like a third person shooter, but it still plays like Metal Gear, like in that old style, intentionally obtuse, where I feel that added a little bit of like both the charm and the challenge of something that, because of those controls, facing 2 soldiers felt like a challenge. Now, like for example, when you're playing the Virtuous Mission, where you find the first 2 soldiers with not being able to crawl, crouch, walk, and kind of like move around and just get those headshots, it's like, oh yeah, it's like this is now trivially easy right now.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that. Obviously, the fact that you are so much more mobile, does by its very nature make it a little more simple. I would say honestly, if they wanted to fix this, a very simple thing could be done, but it might affect things. Like the enemy's cone of vision, I would say, is a little narrow on the sides. It's okay. It's okay when they're looking for you. Like it's not like the original Metal Gear where like if you're standing 11 feet instead of 10 feet away, they don't see you, right? It's not like that, but they don't see their peripheral vision as well as they probably should. But I mean, I do not disagree with what you're saying. Like it does. You are a little overpowered as compared to how it was initially supposed to be.
And I cannot stress enough that I felt so good feeling too, because I'm streaming my second playthrough. I'm doing a New Game Plus playthrough that kind of gives you the Patriot, which is like for people that played the original Metal Gear, it's like it gives you the boss's weapon that has infinite ammo. But I'm playing it on the much harder difficulty in Legacy mode, and holy crap, it's hard. I was like dying constantly against Ocelot yesterday, and even when I switched to the new mode for Over the Trail, even then I felt a more challenged. I was like, definitely play those difficulties, like, because it's like that's where I finally started to see that the game was pushing back on how trivially easy it can really get now that it controls so well. And the thing is that despite those problems of like, oh man, this is making it too easy, we haven't had stealth in so long, a pure really no holds barred stealth game in forever.
Shadows was really the last one, like the last
Exactly, and even then, like Shadow still has like a little bit of the Ubisoft nature of how they do some stealth and all that. Is like playing a game that's so pure stealth is like, I can kind of forgive it a little bit more in this one, because it's like because like this kind of game that really focuses on that. It's like you don't get it as often. Metal Gear has been dormant for so long that I still take it, even though I'm like, I know that at least this serves kind of like as a cautionary tale for me of like the nature of either you go super ambitious and completely redo everything a la Final Fantasy VII Remake, Reaver, that is like, you get the story beats, but the way those story beats play out on top of like the levels are fair, they're not one-to-one. Like you're not looking at the original PS1 game and looking at Final Fantasy VII Remake and you say it is the exact same game. This one is like, for better or worse,
you could put them side by side and it's the same game, right?
Exactly. It's like almost, and even to the size, it's like the sizes are literally still the PS2 playgrounds, and that's kind of what I see. What I feel is like they've put the smoothness of controlling Snake as he was in Metal Gear Solid 5, because obviously like crouch walking, shooting and all that was introduced in 4, but 5 is the one that perfected it, like smoothed out all the edges. But then at the same time, it's like people don't realize that on top of the mechanical improvements, like Kojima really improved play spaces, AI, like the way the guards, enemy density,
environmental interactivity is huge in Metal Gear Solid 3.
Exactly.
Huge.
So at least it has that. But the fact that everything else is smooth, but the enemy AI is still the same as it was back in 2004, which is like leagues beneath like where it went to in 4 and even in 5. That 5 was like adapting to everything, and the enemy density is like, I'll never forget, it's like you could, in just one small space, there could be 20 enemies. And the key of satisfaction in Metal Gear Solid 5 is seeing how you could figure out like getting all those 20 enemies. And this one is like 2 or 3 in a space. So that's kind of that's kind of like where it's like they've grafted the improvements into still the old school design. That and to me it's like, if it was me, it's like I would still get like at least art style, like maybe make the places grander, add even more enemies, make the AI more, and then that way those mechanics feel like they have like a new level of design that meets the required challenge that it should, at least in a normal difficulty. Obviously, like harder difficulty alleviates a little bit, but I feel this is like a good example of why either you go full lavish remake and you may leave it exactly the same, and now you kind of see what it is to get a faithful remake on top of adding those improvements, but it's still kind of seeing how those clashes. It doesn't ruin it for me, but I definitely notice it. But because the story is still so damn good, the characters are so damn good.
It might to this day still be my favorite story in gaming. It's between this and probably Last of Us 2, actually.
Yeah, it's like, it's so like, this story is like, and this is kind of like where I landed on, like, just thinking about it, me recommending this to people. It's like, obviously, like, you have had many like arguments about this with Joe, that he's like in between, like, the if he wants to play this and he has never played the old ones, and he's also very stubborn of like not wanting to play the old games despite the fact that they're widely available. And that's kind of also, I think, that why I'm not too mad of Delta existing as it is. Konami made the effort of giving you 3 in the Master Collection. Like, if you want to play original recipe, it's easily available, and I'm glad that it's like, for the purists, it's still there. Even though this game attempted to add a legacy mode to be like, you want the new visuals but kind of want to play it like that, you can play it that way. I'm not as huge a fan of legacy mode because there's no way to make it control like it should be. It's
like, what you pointed out, all they have to do is give you the ability to toggle first person mode, it'll be fine.
Yeah,
but the fact that you have to hold it, that doesn't quite work. I agree.
Yes, and
it was a weird oversight since when you're playing new mode, it does toggle it, and there's no way to make it not a toggle.
Yeah, so it's like a weird.
I mean, to be clear, I would not want to make it a not a toggle, but I don't understand why in legacy mode it's not a toggle.
Exactly.
An option to be a toggle.
That would literally fix so much, especially because when you go into first person, you cannot move. So it's like, okay, just make it a toggle, because then like you have to shoot it with the L2 and R2 one. Before it was R1 square. So, and I faced that head on when I've been like streaming it, playing it on that legacy mode. It's like, man, it's like, it gets close. It gets so close, and
it was 99% of the way there to actually being even a better version to play it the old way, and they missed on that 1%. I will say, if enough people say something, that's an easy fix. They can very, very easily add in a patch.
Yeah, and they also need to fix a lot.
They do. I'm saying this is the easiest fix, though. Like, this one that they could generally throw this in the next patch and not even, you know, like that's something they could probably code in 10 seconds.
Yes, so. but I tell you, it's like this story is like a little slow to start.
Before you get there, I will say, now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying I disagree with anything you've just said. In fact, I do agree with it. That does not change the fact, however, and to be clear, I understand you had to review it that way. I'm not disputing that at all.
Yeah.
However, for me, what I have gotten outside of some technical issues is exactly what I was hoping to get. Like, I love the game so much that not changing enemy density and all that kind of stuff works for me, because I could basically just play a better looking, better playing, controlling, and to be clear, I also don't even mind the controls of the old Metal Gear. Like I've never had an issue with them, but I do understand that it obviously has its drawbacks, right? So it really has proven to be exactly what I want it to be, and I know that some people have criticized this, and it's not a complaint that I agree with. I actually think that character models almost to a T look amazing in this.
Yes.
I know some people have complained about that, and I'm like, I don't know what you're looking at, because I think they all look amazing.
There's some lighting like issues where maybe because of Unreal Engine 5, maybe the illumination and specific scenes look a little too bright. Like for example, when Snake and Ocelot face off in the first like they're like the lighting can make it look a little too washed out, but at least in the level of detail, I'm like the further I got into the game, like obviously it is a very old game. There's gonna be some slight spoilers here. Let's just say like the torture scene with the out of fidelity.
I mean, I've not seen that, but I cannot wait.
But yeah, it's like because you already know it is bad. Seeing it in that level of fidelity is like it hits. It's like, oh man, it's like that.
Like in the beginning of Virtuous Mission, when you first see Volgan, I'm like, he looks 10,000 times better in this game than he did in.
He looks very imposing. He looks like
he does. He looked, even at the time, he looked kind of bizarre.
Yeah,
in the original
he was
version.
goofy. Yeah, he was goofy.
He actually looks like a big, scary Russian guy in this game, and I'm like, and I think the boss looks amazing. She looks way better than she did in the original game.
Snake does too.
Snake looks incredible.
And specifically, I feel like the best compliment I can give it is the dialogue is literally 1-to-1 lifted from the original. Same tempo.
It's the same voice recordings.
Exactly. Yeah. The cinematography used 1-to-1. It's like maybe 98%. Maybe they adjusted a few shots to make it, but it's exactly like that. Like the intent of the cinematography is still the same as it was back in 2004, and the way the characters emote, the way the conversations flow, you could have sworn this was a game recorded originally this year, or like for something that came out. It's so ahead of the time.
The all four of the original Metal Gears. Metal Gear Solids were so far ahead of their time. It's hard to even believe. It really, really is.
And I feel like this lavish recreation in a new engine, all that underlines that, because it's like it's like this people is how this story was. This is beat for D. This was the intent of Kojima. This is how it was. Like, and it still manages to like be something that heavily resonates. The crescendo of the second half of this game is one of the best climbs of like hype.
When you don't know, you actually think it's going to end like 3 times before it actually does. And it almost always gets better with one late game. I was going to ask you how the particular late game sequence that was always pretty bad in the original one, if it's any better here. But
slightly better.
We'll get there. We're not to that point yet. But
yes, it's basically the one where you're escorting someone again,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like with the new camera and with the smoother thing, went by so quickly that I wasn't as annoyed as it
was obnoxious in the original one. It was probably the only out of a maybe 15 to 16 hour game for your first playthrough. It was probably the only 20-minute segment that I really would have much complaint about, but it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, it reminds me, like, I always still dislike the Metal Gear Solid 2 version of that more, which is Emma Emmerich. So
it was really bad in that one. Yeah.
Yes, and it was longer because you have to like have her swim and then like take her somewhere, and then there's the sniper part and all that. So,
I like the sniper part actually, but the other parts I hated.
Exactly, that was the high point of that entire sequence. But I feel this one is brief enough, and now because everything is so smooth, it's so easy to like in the modern controller just catch all these enemies and just headshot them really quickly. It's like it makes that part go so much quicker, and the emotional resonance of its very final boss, and
very emotional end to this game. And like the boss and in particular, well, I didn't mean to say, the boss itself.
Pun intended. Pun intended.
But also particularly like the revelations after the 45-minute ending sequence. It was like, man, this was actually a very like powerful story.
Yes, it's like a story of betrayal, loyalty, and like the painful birth of a legend. That's kind of how I describe it in my review. And it's like that because obviously we've had that conversation that ideally you play this after playing 1 and 2. I do feel that ignoring kind of like the very obvious wink and nods that you find, like finding the guy that shows you Rex, Metal Gear Rex is literally in his desk, like the
Granin.
Yeah, Granin, exactly. And the guy, and also like figuring out like the thrill of reloading a gun, like that you see that you remember hearing on his boss fight in 1. All of that is like ignoring those wink and nods. I do feel Metal Gear Solid 3 tells a great standalone story of Naked Snake and his ascension into a legendary hero that I feel like even if people don't play 1 and 2, they can still get a really like emotionally resonant, like thematically emotionally resonant story that obviously will be enhanced more when you know the tragedy of everything that comes after. But I feel like for anyone that kind of starts there, I feel like this is the one Metal Gear story that a lot of it stands on its own, that I would still recommend people, if they're still being stubborn of not wanting to play 1 and 2 and just want to play remade versions of this. Like, I see the vision. I still, like, you and I are purists, so we know, like, obviously 1 and 2.
I don't agree with you. I do not agree with you on that. But
yeah, but that's kind of where like the debate is, and that's the thing. Like, it's very obvious. It's like Konami like wants to get new people here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the intent of what the developers intend of having started here, on top of it being like, he's kind of like how they did start with Silent Hill 2, that it was like, it's not connected to 1 and 3, but it's like it was like kind of like the most iconic one, so they could kind of start there. 3 kind of like, it's probably that's why they picked these 2 games, because like, let's start with like the most iconic one.
Just started with the most popular. Yeah.
Yes, and 3 just allows them to have their cake and eat it too, even though for us, the true fans, is like, this is kind of like how like back in Star Wars, you start with the original trilogy and then watch the prequels, and then like knowing what's happening next, like what adds the weight of when you start seeing the events happen. It has that, but I do feel that it's still like, I feel like Kojima really wrote a really great like personal story with what he does with Naked Snake and the boss, that at least that part of the game, I feel if someone just jumps in here, they will still get something that still hits, because it hits on like what it means to give your life for a country that just disposes you really easily because of ulterior motives and all of that. Like, I tell you, like, it's so funny to me, like, Metal Gear is the most patriotic series I've ever seen, of someone that's not even from the country that he always makes these games off. Like Kojima has like such a reverence to
he loves the West. He loves the United States.
Yes, and not only that, he loves the U.S. military. And I feel there's just something that I feel like if you're like a veteran or something, I feel there's just something that heavily resonates in how the end of the story plays out, especially with all those revelations, and especially the final shot. It's so good. So good. That was like, I'm glad there was like, they were circulating the, oh man, the way they framed the shot in his color, they kind of ruined it. I'm like, that was like a pre-release thing. I saw it there. I was like, oh man, the final shot of him salute, the salute was like, oh, it hit so well. I was like, I'm so glad, like, the power of this story is still like, it still hits even 20 years, like close to more than 20 years later. And that to me was kind of like the thing that, my complaints aside of, yes, it's like, I wish it was a more ambitious remake based on the changes they made that didn't go far enough to make those changes feel like fully formed. It still reminded me why Snake Eater is one of my favorite games of all time. It's still like it has not replaced the original. I'm glad the original still exists. They're both widely available. And I would feel even more positive about all this if the technical side of it was better.
That was a big L. No doubt about it. That's a big L.
And obviously, when you hear Unreal Engine 5, it's very obvious that's not an engine for these consoles, even like the Pro.
Now, before we go into it though, I do want to be clear about something. I have seen some people making comments saying the game is unplayable, and that is not even remotely true.
Yeah.
However, it is not excusable the condition that it is in. However, if you are interested, there is no reason to not play this game outside of maybe saying I want to wait and see if in a month it runs a little bit better.
I know that you're not a big fan of him because of his flip-flopping takes and all that. Like Gene Park from the Washington Post kind of got into that, where it's like, you notice how a lot of the reviews mention some technical issues, but they didn't make it like a big point because the game is still playable enough.
Yeah.
The pace of the game is like slow enough that the technical side of it is not as huge a detriment as the heavily online people would say. To me, it's just more like fundamentally, I think the technical side of it, I think, is just more on principle that annoys me more. Because
and I totally agree with that.
Yes.
If you were to say I refuse to play this until, that's fair. I'm just simply saying
it's not an unplayable mess. Because
don't be afraid to play it because somebody's saying it's unplayable, because it's just not. It's frustrating because it's like, man, this is a really beautiful game. It is a beautiful game. Yeah. But
it's grafted onto PS2. And not only that, it's like the design is still like the level layouts, the scale of it, it's still PS2 era. So theoretically, especially for a game that on its Master Collection runs at a perfect 60 frames, it's like this, like the scale is not like as massive for it to be like a game that is not performing as well as it should. And that alone, and to me it's like the freak happened with the pro version. It's like this game is better. That's unacceptable.
Unacceptable. How
Yeah.
the pro version is, yes.
Yeah, it's like it's like how did that make it pass cert? It's like this feel like
Very worst case scenario. If they could not get the pro to where they wanted it, they should have just not had the pro version
and just ship it on the base.
Right, that the pro just brute forces better performance out of standard quality and standard, and it doesn't. You're stuck with a worse version.
Yeah, because it was like for some reason the resolution, especially in the performance mode, kind of like drops all the way to 720, and we know that because it uses PSSR needs at minimum 1080p for things to not look muddy, and for some reason the resolution is like dropping lower because it's trying to use PSSR, so it's trying to do that thing. It's like it just doesn't work. Like the game just looks cleaner on a base PS5. Base PS5 also gives you like the option for performance mode and quality mode. Theoretically, I would have enjoyed quality mode more, but some of the frame rate drops were a little too much for me.
I guess it was you that said it really wasn't very steady on quality either.
Yeah, it just has the typical Unreal Engine 5 kind of like like traversal transitions. That's like because it controls well enough in quality mode and it looks sharp enough that I was like I could kind of wing it, but it's like it's very noticeable when you drop beneath 30 at that point.
Yeah, if you're gonna have a quality mode, it has to be a solid 30. It cannot be dropping below that.
Yes, and the game has great motion blur, so at least they had a good idea with that. It's just that you cannot just be dropping down there. And at least the performance mode is like it's high up there. At least it doesn't go as down as it does on the pros. Like this is not a great showcase. In fact, this almost feels like this game was supposed to come out at the launch of the PS5 Pro last November. Remember we got all those games that were just worse in the Pro version than in the base PS5 mode. It feels like we're back in November from last year. It's like we were long past that because almost any game that launched busted on the Pro has all been fixed. So I'm hoping eventually they fix that. The problem is that I have my faith in Virtual Studio, which is one of the major developers of this remake, besides a core team over at Konami that was kind of overseeing and developing some of this, that worked on all Metal Gears too, because they were in charge of a lot of the asset creation and the technical side of it. How they've handled the Oblivion remaster from earlier this year, but it's still not fixed.
It's pretty clear. Now, I'm not going to trash talk Virtuous because they actually have made some pretty quality product.
Yeah.
However, it's pretty clear maybe right now they themselves should not be using Unreal Engine 5 because they are struggling with it. There's no doubt about that. Yeah,
they feel overstretched because it's like probably one would think that their Oblivion remastered is probably still not fixed because they're still working on this thing, and maybe that is also kind of like flipping. They are now working on. They're the ones that are actually helping doing the new patches for Cyberpunk because CDPR is
the last two. Yep.
Yeah, because CDPR has like moved on now to the sequel, but they're kind of still want to add stuff to the to that original game, like to the detriment of people like Joe that he's waiting for the game to be done so he can play. So it's like
he may never get to play it.
Yeah, because they want to keep like updating. I know.
Well, you figure there's still a Witcher patch coming this year.
Yeah.
So I would not bank on Cyberpunk being done anytime soon. I really would not.
Yeah. To me, it's like DLC support. Once you hear that's the final, that should be your jumping on point. Like games are just gonna be always perpetually patched no matter what. But going back to like Metal Gear, it's like to me it's more. I feel like for a game that's fundamentally from the PS2 era, I feel like it should be the easiest win for it to be great technically. And to me, it hurts more knowing that Kojima, like a big key of Kojima's games is that his games are so polished. We had Death Stranding 2 recently, and you see like what he was able to do. Obviously not with Unreal Engine 5, but he still like polishes his games to like the upteenth degree.
He does not get enough credit for how good he is on the technical side of things as well.
Yeah, all the way back in the PS2 with Metal Gear Solid 2. That was one of the first 60 frames.
Find another PS2 game that even looks like Metal Gear Solid 2, let alone runs like it.
Yeah. It's like that was the first game where I realized that 60 frames was a real thing. Yeah. And it was like a bummer that then 3, because he pushed the visual envelope more, he had to drop to 30. And because I'll never forget when I first played, I was like, this feels wrong. Because I remember like, and this was me. Imagine me. I was a 10-year-old back in like 2004, like having just played Metal Gear Solid 2 and then playing 3 and not understanding. It's like, why does this feel different? And it was kind of like the first time of like me realizing, oh, that's frame rate. and 2 was like a 60 frames game, and early PS2 was like full of 60 frames games, but like Metal Gear Solid 2 was like one of the perfect examples of a game that pushed the smoothness, and it was so technically accomplished. Like that tanker level is insane. And, like the sandboxy nature of
the
everything
interactivity of everything. Yep.
Yeah, the big show is not as interactive, but it's like the tanker level is like a visual marvel. And ironically, Death Stranding 2 reminds me of that. The Mexico side of things is very like diverse and very like interactive, and then when you go to Australia, it's not as interactive.
Right, it's just a bunch of empty rocks. Yeah,
exactly. So it's so funny that Kojima always makes like all his technical, like he front loads the technical cool shit, and then like later on that kind of just peters out eventually. So it's so funny he does that all the time. Ground Zeroes to Phantom Pain. There's so much you can do in Ground Zeroes, like in just that small map, and then when you go to the Phantom Pain, that's like wide open and all that. It's like, yeah, there's like variety here, but then there's a lot of empty space, whereas like a lot of the so he does that a lot. But yeah, it's like that would have been like the technical side of things would have made me like, because I reviewed it, the review's out, I put it out for Season Gaming. Like I blasted through this thing. I started playing it on the early access.
You finished it in 1 day.
Yeah, I know it so well, and that's the thing. Like I've beat it in 10 hours. I feel someone that doesn't know.
It's 20. It's 20 your first time through.
Yeah, 15, 20 is probably, and especially like I did the end skip too. So that again, the game and all this, and that alone can add you like a 1 or 2 hours, even 3 hours, or even a week, depending on how you play, because that fight is so legendary. But it's like it's still such a great game. I'm glad Metal Gear is back, and I'm glad at least like
the gaming space is better with Metal Gear games being released.
Yes, obviously the future of Metal Gear is always gonna be muddy because it's it's a series. So like if this remake underlines that, it's like at least Konami understood that this game is so intrinsically tied to the Kojima touches, and they were able to preserve a lot of that. But again, Metal Gear is still Kojima, so it's like to me the only way that I can be happy with the future of Metal Gear is if they stick to doing the games as they are and keep the stories as they are.
There's a couple ways I can be happy with it. This is one for sure. The next logical step would typically be obviously a full remake of the first one. Well, yeah, that, but a full remake of one. But also for years I've been hoping for and never got. And I would actually give Konami the will to do this one how they want, as long as they followed the story. I would like to see Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 remade, so that I could actually, because reality is
I've only read
those ones are tough to go back to because you're playing like games from
MSX
1990, I think is what the first one
1986 is the original.
Was it 80s? Okay.
Yes.
Well, boy, that also shows you how far ahead of time they were then too. But it's like, but that said, there's obviously a whole lot of elements of the story of those that have subsequently been retconned to fit into everything else. So it's like, that is one where you have a very basic story outline to follow, right? I would love to see those brought to even if it was like Metal Gear Solid 2 level, right? Just something like a modern thing to actually like learn his effectively origination and all that stuff.
Yeah, like MGS1 and MGS2 to me are always going to be interesting if they ever decide to remake them, because they're so intrinsically tied to their design.
I was talking about Metal Gear. Yeah, you did say MSX. Yeah, I was talking about Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2.
and those I feel there could be a little bit more freedom with those, because it's like they're so old at this point. I feel they have more freedom.
And like you have the story outline, but not much detail of the story from there. So long as you fit within the greater lore and don't break lore and anything like that, you have free reign to do what you want there.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, at the very least, at least there's like the templates are there, the scripts are written. It's like the Metal Gear story has been told. Like if Revengeance kind of showed something, that there's not much to do after everything got closed to a perfect, like with a perfect ending with Metal Gear Solid 4, that I feel like to me it's like preserving the series is probably the best thing that Konami can really do. And right now I feel the bigger priority is a Master Collection Volume 2 that finally unshackles Metal Gear Solid 4 out of the PS3, because it's literally the one game that's still missing, because the entirety of the Metal Gear franchise, with the exception of Portable Ops, and right now Peace Walker's kind of like in a weird spot right now, because like if you bought it on the Xbox 360, like before it got delisted, you could still kind of play it there, but there's no way to play that on a modern PlayStation system. It's like they have to kind of release it. Like a Master Collection Volume 2 could like complete the thing, and then they could like take their time.
If you wanted to add the little side ones, like they have Metal Gear 1, 2, they have the NES versions, which are technically a little bit different, all that stuff. You could add like the 2 acids into that, so it's like you could fill out the collection. There are options there, and actually something that nobody really talks about. So I know the Master Collection got shit on pretty good, but reality was, everyone forgets, actually it was pretty good on PlayStation. It just was not good on Xbox, which I think they fixed it since, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, everything has been fixed like since then.
However, they don't get enough credit for like all the little subsequent material they put into that. Like that is a really well assembled collection with those. I forget what they're called. Like, it has the screenplay, and it has the like Master Collection book or something like that in it. Like, which unfortunately, you want to sell something? There you go. Put those in a physical version. I'll be first in line to buy them because they are awesome. Yeah. But like they got a lot of credit for me for actually having all that kind of material in there that most people don't seem to care about. But I'm like, I found that fascinating as all hell.
Yeah, which gives me hope that eventually they're going to give us the database that I poured hours and hours and hours into back.
We were talking about that the other day
in MGS4. To me, it's just like MGS4 is literally the only thing that we're really missing. Like, we don't really need, like, yes, ideally we would eventually get a complete version of MGS5 because, like, we know
that Peace Walker and 4, but yeah.
Yeah,
4, yeah.
Yeah, 4 I think is just more primordial because it is the end of the story.
Right.
Whether Revengeance ever gets re-released, I mean, they could if they want. I mean, it's a Platinum game. Technically, they worked with Platinum in this with this remake with the Guy Savage thing that that they kind of sort of brought back from like at the original PS2 version that they kind of removed from the HD collections, and it's a more elaborate. It's very clearly made by Platinum. It has their visual style. It has kind of like that thing. It's the thing that I actually started playing when I streamed it yesterday. So it's like overall like great. Like it's a great remake. I'm glad they didn't fuck it up like completely. It still could be better.
Room for improvement. Room for
improvements. That it's like, I hope that they can still do it. Obviously, right now I feel we finally hit the referendum on Unreal Engine 5 as an engine to be used right now for this generation of consoles, because it sucks that so many people wanted to move to Unreal because it was gonna save them cost because of the universality of everyone kind of working on that same engine. But it's just clear that it's an engine that's so bottlenecked by the way that it's been made that it's unfortunate. Like, to me, it's like I wish this was
needs horsepower that the current consoles, including the Pro, simply do not have.
Yeah, and like for example, like Rebirth is like tricked itself not by being on Unreal Engine 5 game. It's like it used PSSR to kind of clean up Unreal Engine 4. So it's like if they would move the part 3 of that into UE5, I don't think the Pro would handle it well. It's just not or to me, like Split Fiction, which you saw me play with my sister a couple of weeks back, is like that's an example of an UE5 game that is actually perfectly polished, and they made sure to not use all the bells and whistles. It feels like everyone like uses UE5, and it's like let's use Nanite, let's use Lumen, let's use all this bullshit.
The Lumen and the Nanite are what
it's like
really
killing,
killing it, because it's too advanced of a shadowing, of a ray tracing, and of a Nanite would be a like a texturing model. Like it's like they're wrong. If you use Nanite right, that actually could help a lot, because it's what lets you like draw distant things at a much lower resolution and save the but it's clearly not an easy thing to code because nobody seems to have gotten it right so far.
Yeah, and the games that do UE5 the best are the ones that are smart to not have to use every tool in the kit. To me, the first as we're wrapping up now, like the first like red flag that I got of UE5 was Immortals of Aveum, because that's a game that they really like promoted as we're making it this single player magic shooter using all of Unreal Engine 5's bells and whistles. It's gonna be one of the first 3 showcases. Like the game was like running at 720p because it was like everything was just so bottlenecking everything, and it looked so blurry. It was obviously like bright and all that. I was like, I don't know about this. And the more we've kind of gotten, even Silent Hill 2 Remake was another example where Lumen, like, yes, visually Lumen and Nanite makes great like looking visuals.
When it works, it's amazing looking.
Yeah, but it comes at a cost.
Not work. Yes.
Yeah, it comes at a severe cost, and that to me is the problem. I feel Metal Gear Solid 5, it's probably suffering from that they decided to do, and that's probably Remaster also did that. They also did all these bells and whistles that, granted, let's not like erase the past. We're very vocal, being like, this is a very impressive visual remake what they've done with UE5. And then the game started bottlenecking. It was like, oh no, and they just kept getting worse. It's like it comes with that. It's a monkey's paw scenario. Get this amazing visual tech that's gonna look great in next gen and with like the beefiest PCs. But even then, the beefiest PCs cannot even handle UE5. So screw that engine.
Well, actually, they can. The problem is the engine does have issues in terms of like texture loading.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening is they have bad stutter if it's not programmed right, and so many of them are not programmed right.
Yeah. And to me, it sucks that so many people are just wanting to move to UE5. Like Halo's moving to UE5. A lot of Microsoft's like output has moved to UE5. They have the advantage that the coalition, it's such a well like studied kind of
it's all Epic employees, yeah.
Exactly. So it's like they know at least how to make it work, and to be fair, they do. You hate Hellblade 2, I know, but at least they made UE5 work for that game in its limited capacity as it did.
Yeah, well, when you're walking down a hallway with fancy still frame around you,
exactly.
But it looked good. I won't argue that it did look good for sure.
Yeah, and it used every bells and whistles, and they were very smart with the limitations of that engine. So, but I really personally highly recommend Delta because I love Metal Gear Solid 3 so much, but as the one that had to wear the critic hat that needed to be a little bit more,
I get it.
Getting more into the weeds is like, I gave it an 8. It's still to me an 8. It's still great.
I was about to ask if you wanted to say what your scores. With the technical issues, I actually completely agree with the 8. That's what I would give it as well. Where we differ a little bit is if you said if it was better, you would have given it an 8.5. I would go at 9. But we are pretty close on our scores.
Yeah, and an 8.5 or 9 depending on the mood. But it's like that's kind of where I am. It's like the technical side of it is like what brought it down, because I told you, like the more I played, the more I started to see like, okay, I'm actually vibing with improvements. Some of the later boss fights benefit a lot from the new mechanic, especially Bolgan. The hand-to-hand Bolgan fight before the chase feels so much better now with the full control. It's like it actually feels like a legit like hand-to-hand.
As opposed to running up, doing a combo, and then running around in a circle.
Yeah, it's like it feels very legit. So I was like, yes. The getting like full control of like over the shoulder camera as you're doing the motorcycle part, like, and that thing is like, okay, it's like I see the vision. And the boss fight at the end maybe got slightly easier with the new camera too, but the weight and the power of that boss fight is still there. It's like there's so much that if you're a Metal Gear Solid 3 fan, I don't feel you can get too mad about some of the changes besides it being easy. And again, if you're a veteran, start with hard.
Yeah.
Crank that sucker up. Yeah, and you're going to see it.
If you know the game, I absolutely do suggest starting with hard. And I think you can't change it.
You cannot change it. It's like you commit. You commit. Like I was looking to that when I was like getting my ass beat in Extreme yesterday. I was like, can I go down? I was like, fuck, I can't. But that's Metal Gear Solid 3. Snake Eater next week. Paul is going to join us. You're going to be back 2 weeks from now, and maybe
I'll be talking about Farloom, baby.
Yes. But Paul is another big Metal Gear fan, so look forward to his thoughts as he's kind of like getting near the end based on where he told me he was. So look forward to that. And kind of like we mentioned, no headlines this week, so time to talk about the release dates for the week of August 31st to September 6th. We're nearing the anniversary when Concord died, by the way.
What was the date of that?
September 4th.
It was okay. I thought it was August. I didn't realize it was September.
Yeah, or the 3rd. It was either the 3rd or the 4th, because then 2 days later was Astrobot. Astrobot was September 6th.
So basically, we're celebrating Concord's demise with Silksong.
Yes.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's very poetic. And I'm gonna read these to see us out. Metal Eden, which was supposed to come out in May, and we played a demo of it, comes to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC on September 2nd. Hirogami comes to PS5 and PC on September 3rd. Adventures of Samsara comes to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC on September 4th. Hell is Us, unless you got it shipped like Rick here, officially comes out on September 4th for PS5, Series X, and PC.
So it is the 4th. Okay, I thought it was the 5th.
Yeah, the same day as Game of the Decade.
That's right. Let's go.
Silksong.
the game of the development decade.
Yes, I am so curious to see what the Discord is gonna be around that game because of how hyped it's been. But yeah, comes out on PS5, Series X, Switch 2, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC September 4th. Jet Runner comes to PC on September 4th. Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree, the side-scroller Metroidvania Souls-like, comes to Switch on September 4th. That's already
okay.
like on everything
So
else.
that's been out. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. The Switch 2 version of Star Wars Outlaws is also on September 4th. The King of Fighters AFK comes to iOS and Android on September 4th. Void Crew comes to PS5, Series X and S on September 4th. Chronos The New Dawn comes to PS5, Series X and S, Switch 2 and PC on September 5th. Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion, the sequel to the mech game that you can play a demo of right now, comes to PS5, Series X and S, and Switch 2 and PC on September 5th. Everybody's Golf Hot Shots comes to PS5, Switch, and PC on September 5th. Jotun Slayer Hordes of Hell comes to PS5, Series X and S, and PC on September 5th. And NBA 2K26 comes to do their yearly rivalry on September 5th for PS5, Series X and S, Switch 2, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. I can break the new
5 games in there that I'm planning on getting this next week.
Yes,
I'm probably gonna have to pass.
I actually can reveal that I'm reviewing Everybody's Golf Hot Shots. I got a code today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm gonna review it. The embargo's on the 3rd, so I'll be playing that in secret. I cannot stream it, unfortunately. Obviously, Hollow Knight Silk Song is the big ticket item. Like that's the one
that and Chronos, I would say, are the 2 big ones.
Yeah, I feel bad for Chronos because it's like suddenly has to come out in the middle of all of this.
Considering it was starting to get some momentum of people going like, hey, they actually do it. Yeah, then they release it the same fucking day in Silk Song.
Yeah.
Or the day before, whatever it is.
Yeah, what was this Hirogami game? It's a platforming game from... Hirogami is the game that was
you're an origami character, I think, right?
Yes, that looked like a tearaway, but it's more of like a platform instead of tearaway, so that comes out that day. Crap, yeah. Adventures of Samsara.
That's a busy-ass week.
Yes.
Jesus.
Yeah. Adventures of Samsara, it's from Atari. I don't know if it's a remake of anything or anything, so that's there. And Hell is Us, obviously you're playing. I don't know if I'm not gonna jump into Hell is Us because I got my fill with what it was on the demo, and it's like that looked like a... I know that you're enjoying it. I can't wait to hear more from you, like as you keep playing it. But that sounds like I can wait for a sale on that, especially because me and Paul do our arrangement, and I tend to have to be like I'm getting Shinobi with him today. So and that unlocks in a few hours. Obviously, it's Outlaws. I played and reviewed that last year, so I'm good with Outlaws at this point. Daemon X Machina. I know you were not a big fan. Paul was a big fan, so I have not played the demo yet, so I have no opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have the collector's edition pre-ordered. Because of all the other shit, I might have to cancel it and maybe look at that one later. Because I do still want to give Metal Eden a shot. I like the demo of that a lot, but it's like, god damn, it is just too busy right now.
Yeah, it's like it is a literal tsunami. I knew this tsunami of releases was gonna start as soon as this week, but especially because as of this recording, Lost Soul Aside is a few hours from unlocking, and we don't know how that game's gonna fare because no one got review copies. Right. And apparently there's supposed to be like a big day one patch for it. I think obviously there's
huge patch. Yeah, huge patch.
Yeah, so that's probably why it's like that. But it's like I'm interested in that just on the premise of a guide loving versus 13 so much that they kind of want to do it a game in that spirit. But it's still like a solo dev that eventually got like help to kind of get it. It's been in development for 9 years. That tends to portend not great things. But Sony put their it's a Sony published game. It's a Sony Interactive Entertainment. So
FF7 remake was also in development for almost forever too, and
and that had to be restarted.
It did, yes, it did.
Yes.
Although I think this did too. I think they did too. I think they scrapped what they had and completely restarted.
Yeah, because that's kind of like they knew the idea, and then that's when they gave him the resource to be like, have a team, because it was one guy working on it, even though they're still promoting as the one guy. So I'm hopeful. I know Joe said that that's the one that he's looking. Of course, if it's terrible, that's gonna be the game that Joe plays instead of any of it,
anything else.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. But I mean, we have as we said to Lord Cognito last week, it's like he does not represent the perspective of this podcast.
The views of the other three of us. Yes. Although no, I mean I'm pretty interested in that too. I mean all the preview footage has looked good, but there's no question it is concerning. There's no review copies, but
demo
people bingo right demo, but also people who pretend like anything that hasn't had a review copy given out is always bad. They're not paying attention because that's just not true.
Look at Doom. Doom 2016 was one of the big like the big like underlines of like, look at this, like everyone thought it was gonna be bad, and then one of the greatest shooters ever made.
Yeah.
So that's it for this week's episode, Rick. Like a shorter one. Like, thank you for bearing with me as I switch around my gym schedule because I kind of wanted to stream today. because I need to get back on the swing of things on that. I'll be streaming over at twitch.tv/theslayergiant, like after, well, this episode is gonna post and I will have already streamed by then. But this is kind of how we're doing.
You're advertising a VOD at this point.
Yes, but you can go watch that, and I might also be streaming on Friday. I may be playing Shinobi that day, so definitely look forward to that. Or twitch.tv/theslayergiant. I start streaming usually at my 6:30, 7:30, which is 7:30, 8:30 Central Time. So keep that in mind, because I'm an hour behind US Central Time. So that's around where I'm still trying to nail how many times I want to stream, when I want to stream, and all that while we do all this. But definitely look into that. And you can find me at @A_Segovia on Twitter /X, at @Segovia on Blue Sky. Obviously, twitch.tv/theslayergiant on Twitch, and my written content over at seasongaming.com, where I finally shook up the cobwebs after the Death Stranding 2 kind of like editorial that I wrote, and finally reviewed a Snake Eater that I was not going to review originally. And then the guy that was going to review it, because we didn't get code, he said, I'm not playing it right now. I was like, I am, so I'm going to do it. And I can do that real quick. And today is the official release. So enjoy, everyone. Play that remake. And look for my Hot Shots golf review next week. So I'm kind of back into the swing of things. Where can people find you, Rick?
Which4969, all the socials, youtube.com/spreadingthenerd, I believe is the URL. Should be having an episode tomorrow. It'll be me and Silking It.
Yes.
We got the French buddy coming in. What's up? Are you free or?
That's why I'll hit you up. I may join you on that. If I'll see you.
Maybe we will have another international edition of Spreading the Nerd with the American, the Canadian/Frenchman,
and the Salvadorian,
and the El Salvadorian. So we got the European, the American, and the Central American.
And to be fair, I'm like part European. I'm like 3/3 of European, like Spanish, Italian, German.
But for the sake of what I'm saying, you're Hispanic.
Yes.
So we'll see what's going on there.
All right. Well, Rick, thank you for joining me in this shorter but more focused episode of the X Button. And for everyone that joined in, if you enjoyed kind of like this more laser focused, non-headline episodes, give us a like, give us a subscribe, maybe leave a comment in your podcast service of your choice. We go live every Friday ongoing. It's been a mess because of sometimes delays of internet upload speeds, lack of thumbnails and all that. But just know that from Friday 10 a.m. onwards Central Time, at any point one of those episodes go live. We didn't even mention it, but I have a special shout out to Lord Cognito for being with us last week. That was a phenomenal, fun episode that allowed us great catharsis and making fun of our beloved.
We did lay into him. I watched it back. I was like, man, we made fun of him more than I even remembered we did.
Yes, we really did. Our red bearded sensation. But that was a fun time. Call was awesome. Hopefully I can have him soon again, and any other guests in the future. But we'll see you here next week. Same bat channel, same time zone, and
press X
to play. Hasta la vista, baby.